Explain who exactly called it digital Blackwater.
Well, this was said by Michael V. Hayden, who used to be the director of the NSA and was the director of the NSA when President Bush began the warrantless surveillance program back in 2001, right after 9/11. He's moved on from intelligence, the intelligence agencies, to become an executive with Chertoff Group, which is a large consulting company in Washington that works very closely with intelligence agencies and corporations, advising them on cybersecurity and advising them on just basically security issues. And so, you know, he's cashed himself in and is making lots of money himself in this industry.
Let's go to the former NSA and CIA Director General Michael Hayden, who, as you said, oversaw much of the privatization of the NSA from 1999 to 2005. This is him speaking in 2011.
We may come to a point where defense is more actively and aggressively defined even for the private sector, and what is permitted there is something we would never let the private sector do in physical space. I mean, you look. Well, I mean, let me really throw out a bumper sticker for you here. How about a digital Blackwater? Okay, I mean, we have privatized certain defense activities, even in physical space, and now you've got a new domain in which we don't have any past trampled down in the forest in terms of what it is we expect the government or will allow the government to do. And in the past, in our history, when that has happened, private sector expands to fill the empty space. I'm not quite an advocate for that, but these are the kinds of things that are going to be put into play here very, very quickly.
That was the former head of the CIA and the NSA, General Michael Hayden. Tim Shurock, talk about Booz Allen Hamilton, and Edward Snowden, and what this relationship is all about between Booz Allen and the NSA.
Well, the most astonishing thing I found in the articles in The Guardian and the revelation that he was from Booz Allen was that, in fact, Booz Allen Hamilton is involved at basically the darkest levels, the deepest levels of U.S. intelligence. If Mr. Snowden had access to these kinds of documents, such as these PRISM documents about surveillance on the internet, as well as this FISA court order, that means practically anyone in Booz Allen who's in intelligence working for the NSA has access to the same kinds of documents. And American people should really know that now we have conclusive proof that these private sector corporations are operating at the highest levels of intelligence and the military. And I think that's the bottom line here. It's not curious, you know, the question is not why this low-level person at Booz Allen, you know, got these documents. The question is, why is Booz Allen involved at this level of intelligence?
Tim Shurock, so according to the New York Times, it's gone so far that even the process of granting security clearances is often handled by contractors. So can you talk about the duties that contractors are performing for the government on these intelligence matters?
Well, first of all, I want to comment on some of these stories in the New York Times and other newspapers. I mean, that's an old story. Everyone knows that, you know, the security clearances is done by contractors. That's been true for a decade or more. And, you know, Booz Allen's been around for, you know, years and years and years. The question is, why haven't these newspapers covered this? They cover intelligence as if there's no private sector involvement at all. And suddenly they hear that Booz Allen's involved, and suddenly we have all these stream of articles about privatized intelligence. Well, welcome to the world of digital Blackwater, as Hayden calls it. And you know, specifically on Booz Allen and what these companies do, I mean, you know, they, as I wrote in my book, Spies for Hire, they do everything, you know, from, you know, CIA intervention in other countries, JSOC, you know, when it does raids, you know, contractors are involved in finding out where the people they attack are and determining, you know, the mapping and all that, and the imagery to make sure that pilots and drones can hit the right people or the wrong people. And they're involved in the Defense Intelligence Agency. They're involved in all military agencies that do intelligence. They do everything. They do everything that the government does.
What's wrong with that?
what's wrong with that is that it's a for-profit operation. Many times you have inside these agencies, you have contractors overseeing other contractors. Contractors, giving advice to the agency about, how to set its policies, what kind of technology to buy, and of course they have relationships with all the companies that they work with or that they suggest to the leaders of U.S. intelligence. And I think, a terrible example of this is, a few months ago, I wrote a cover story for The Nation magazine about the NSA whistleblowers that you've had on this show a few times, Tom Drake, Bill Benny, and the other two. And, they blew the whistle on a huge project called Trailblazer that was contracted out to SAIC that was a complete failure. And this project was designed from the beginning by Booz Allen, Northrop Grumman, and a couple other corporations who advised the NSA about how to acquire this project and then decided amongst themselves to give it to SAIC. And then SAIC promised the skies and never produced anything. And the project was finally canceled in 2005. And it's very ironic that Michael Hayden says he's not sure about, this privatization. I mean, he's the one who set this whole privatization in place. He's the one who did it. He's the one who pulled the trigger on it. And he's responsible for this vast privatization of NSA, which I have to say began before 9/11.